Hello, and welcome to my Transport Fever 2 USA map. On this map I have altered the basic settings so that towns now can have up to 4 cargo needs, and also so that industries sometimes close if I'm not using them. I also have enabled several mods, most of them different trains and station assets. However, some of them I have different, like sandbox mode, which allows me to change stuff, timetable mod, which I'll get to later, and no cost, which I enabled later on once money was no longer an issue for me. I also have a capacity mod for vehicles, which means I can increase the capacity, but this also means that cost goes up, one of the reasons why I enabled the no cost mod. This is the map of my public transport. Pause if you want to take a look. It does not include lines that are only used by cargo vehicles. Here we are in Kansas City, where I started building on this map. The station is mostly the same as it was back then, with cargo platforms in the middle, then bypassing tracks, then passenger platforms on the outside. This is how I build most stations, as it allows cargo vehicles to turn around and crisscross over without impacting through trains. Freeway Junction here has undergone many upgrades in order to grade separate it, as this area is very busy. Wichita is the first town I placed down on this map. As you can see, it is very big, and the one original station has now been joined by many more. Oklahoma City is another one of my original stations, still mostly retaining its original layout. The station was once again built to serve a food farm. The junction after Oklahoma City is unchanged. Austin is the biggest city on this map. You can see it has 3 stations, including a dedicated cargo station and high-speed station. I will talk more about the high-speed lines later. The junction into Laredo is very complicated and was changed to be this way. At least it works very well. Then we come to Laredo, which is the end of the original line. I have many routes running down each railway line, and this provides great connectivity. This is now the single-track, unelectrified line down to Zacatecas. I do this as I think it is more realistic to have some lines like this. This is Chicago, a big city and a major hub for both cargo and passenger lines. This is why I have a 9-platform cargo station, a 14-platform passenger station, as well as an airport. I also have the Chicago Suburban Network, a network of passenger railway lines which operate to many nearby cities, including several I placed down myself. There are many bits of the Chicago Suburban Network that go single track, and yet there is still a good frequency. This is the 4-track main line from Chicago towards Pittsburgh and the East Coast. It is also a very busy line, with both freight and passengers. Pittsburgh Station is also very busy with cargo lines because of the nearby industries. Washington DC is an example of a station which I built too big for its demands. New York is another massive station, with passenger and cargo platforms, as well as high-speed platforms on the eastern side. This is Boston, where there are separate passenger and cargo stations, and then we come to Portland, Maine, which is another town I added in myself. This is the interstate system I started building on the East Coast, but I never got that far with it, as it turns out, the demand for it is not very high. There is also a high-speed line on this corridor. All of my high-speed lines are straight and don't have many stations, so that trains can go really fast on them. Some of my train junctions can seem a bit complex, but they all work really well with high amounts of traffic. Minneapolis is an important hub because many of the northwestern areas don't have great train lines, and so road vehicles are used to carry passengers and cargo there. Although I did build some new high-speed lines, but these don't have very frequent service compared to the rest of my high-speed lines. This is my newest train line, going from Minneapolis towards California across the mountainous areas. This is also not electrified and has many single track sections to save cost. We now come out to Las Vegas on the California main line. The southern section of this line has high-speed tracks as well as the main ones to increase capacity and allow trains to go faster. The western part of Fresno started to expand out of my control, so I deleted that bit and used the player ownership tool. When enabled on roads, the player ownership tool means that the AI will not build any buildings on that road or connect any other roads off of it. Los Angeles is the passenger hub for the West Coast. I use this 12-platform station, modelled off of King's Cross in London, to serve the passenger demand. Outside the station, I have bus connections to the rest of Los Angeles as well as San Diego. The junction here is also complex, but I made it complex so that there are the minimum amount of conflicts between trains as possible. The airport here serves both cargo and passenger flights over long distances. There are several different cargo types being transported by this airport, and I allow them to transport cargo without restrictions. Los Angeles is one of the stations in the game where I use the new tool which allows you to select multiple platforms a train can arrive at if its default platform is occupied. I also use this tool at New Orleans, which is another really busy station where there aren't enough platforms for each route to have its own. I also have an underpass for one cargo route to bypass the main passenger platforms of the station. In case you're wondering, the cargo station in New Orleans is off to the side. Despite this being a major passenger hub, it is not a major cargo hub, and there are only two cargo routes that serve New Orleans. Miami is also a big passenger train hub. All trains terminate here, and this is a transfer point for boats on the nearby islands. There is also a cargo station over here. Miami is also where cargo boats to the Caribbean islands go from. I chose to build tram lines in Havana and the Bahamas because the islands are long and straight, perfect for a long tram line. I then went back and did some adjustments on the area. This is what happened. As you can see here, I built a new junction with tunnels leading to an underground station at Miami, with then tunnels under the sea to both the Bahamas and Havana. The other islands still need to be connected by boat as they do not have enough population to merit a high-speed train line. As you can see here, there are some truck routes that use my interstate routes to get to industries. By the way, this factory comes from the Industries Expanded mod, which can help complexify your industrial networks and add a new layer to them. You can still get the old industries if you want to, though. As I alluded to earlier, I have many train routes which cross pretty much the entire country. Although not all routes cross the country, stopping at many stations. This New York to Los Angeles express passenger route, probably my most important passenger route in the game, has just 4 stations: New York, Chicago, El Paso, and Los Angeles. It is designed as a fast way to get between the two sides of America. As you can see here, by default the game wants this line to run down the low-speed lines via Kansas City. However, I want it to run down the fast lines. To reroute this line, I can tap on a signal in route creation mode, just like how I tap on a station, which will make sure the line routes via that signal. You can do the same with a waypoint as well. By the way, waypoints do nothing else, so do not try to use them for anything else, as just won't do anything. By the way, here is a place where there are a lot of railway lines that branch off the high-speed line in order to serve stations without high-speed tracks, such as here at Laredo. These junctions at El Paso allow trains to switch between different lines so that they can carry on through towards California. At Nashville, we have passenger and cargo platforms on the same track. I usually wouldn't recommend this, as the fact the 2 platforms are on the same track means that there's a lowered capacity, as only one train could use either at any given time. But at Nashville, the station isn't that busy, so it's okay. This station here looks weird, but let me explain it. This is a 1-platform station with both a passenger and cargo platform, which I use just to turn trains around. No cargo or passengers can actually get on or off the train here, but it is a good way to turn trains around if the main station only has 3 platforms. I also have high-speed bypass tracks to one side of the station. Back at New York City, you can once again see that I have put the platforms for terminating trains inside the platforms for the through train. This is so that trains terminating do not have to cut across through trains in the opposite direction when they are going into their platform. I also adjusted the junction to the north of the station to have bridges and tunnels so that there are fewer conflict points between trains. This line then leads up to Montreal. This cargo truck stop is full. Station being full is indicated by the numbers of cargo turning blue and an information symbol off to the right of the information window. To add cargo capacity to a truck stop or train station, you can add another building which will store cargo. This also works for passengers. Back at Kansas City, I have 3 cargo routes, varying from carrying grain to the nearby food factory, to delivering and transporting cargo between Kansas City and other nearby cities. However, I have used an interesting trick here. All lines are through lines, meaning that they don't terminate at Kansas City, which significantly increases capacity and allows the station design to be simpler. And back at Chicago, it's another perfect example of how I have many overlapping routes, which helps people get from where they want to go from to where they want to go to in maybe only 1 or 2 trains, rather than having to transfer lots around the country. The Denver to Savannah railway line is very interesting because it does not physically connect to any other train line. It also uses an electrified third rail rather than overhead catenary. I built this line in order to connect several cities across where most railway lines were going north-south, and therefore it provides extra connectivity. Third rail tracks I got off the Steam Workshop, as well as another mod that allows you to select different tracks with different speeds at intervals of 5 miles an hour, which allows you to build really realistic train lines and get the exact speed you want on tracks. Now time to show my favourite mod, the timetables mod. There were lots of videos around showing you exactly the ins and outs of how to use this mod. However, I generally just use the unbunch function, which allows you to set trains at a certain distance apart when running down your line. At the top of the page, it tells you the frequency of the line, and then what I usually do is set the unbunch function on terminus stations to this value, so trains are nicely evenly spread out when they run down the line. These trains are both waiting here until it is their time to run, as they are being properly spread out through the unbunch function. I have built so much in this game that fast forward mode doesn't even do much compared to normal speed mode. For cargo delivery, I usually have a truck route from the station into the centre of the city to cover as many buildings as possible. Sometimes I even take trucks from other cities to deliver cargo if there is not a cargo station in that city. In some parts of the country, I have large truck networks where cargo is delivered by truck and not by train. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. As the video ends, I'll play some time lapses and explain a couple of things that I didn't get to explain yet. Okay, so there's a couple more things. First of all, most cities have bus routes which pick up people and take them to the train stations. Most of these loops are in both directions, so that there is a significantly increased capacity, particularly if people only want to go one stop. Secondly, another one of those mods increases the maximum upgrade level of industries so more products can be produced. I got this mod so that more cities could be delivered to with one factory.